Welcome back to Imagination Station Network. As you can see, we're still in our home. They've not evicted us yet. But we are back with a brand new guest. Now, we've been trying to get Keith for a wee while. Everywhere we go, Keith is there. But this man's stalls, wherever he goes, are always busy. And that is a testament to what he does and who he is. But again, I always say this, I will try my hardest not to talk, but this will be the first time that I've had a chance to speak to Keith with a quick chat down the stairs, so I will try my hardest. I have a lot to ask, but it's your episode, Keith, so you've watched a few, you know how it works, but can you just tell the guys who you are and what you do, if they don't already know?
Okay, well, thanks for inviting me. I'm Keith Webster, and I am a potter, ceramic artist, whatever you want to call it. Ceramic artist always feels a bit flashier than I feel. I've got a studio, we have a small gallery, and we offer classes and workshops. And yeah, that's the journey I'm on.
And you know, that's the key in this thing is humble. You can tell Keith there, you know, a lot of people would go straight in and they would be like, this is what I do, this is where I go, this is where I am. That's the reason why you're sitting in that seat, because I find that creatives who want to share are the most humblest people I've met on my journey. And I mean that, I really mean that sincerely. The fact is that, and again, I'm not here to diss other artists or creatives, and I get why they really want to hold things close to their chest. But sometimes, in order to create the next generation or the next Keiths or the next, I'm glad you said that, because I was saying, is it a potter or whatever? I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
The way we do it is by showcasing. But today I want to find out how Keith for Ravn Clay ended up being Keith of Ravn Clay. But first, before we go right into that part, it's about the journey. How did you start? No, let's take it further back than that. The creative journeys of Keith as a person, whether it be the younger you or how you ended up.
Creative journey. Well, I would not have classed myself as being creative or artistic at all. I was the youngest of three brothers. I was the academic one. I'm sure they won't mind me saying that. So I never did art, never did craft. I kind of enjoyed what I did, but never had any qualifications. And then, I remember, again, when I was a kid, seeing a few potters working on wheels and kind of liking the feel of mugs and plates and stuff. Didn't really pursue it. I signed up for a couple of evening classes, which I never actually got to. And then we skip ahead a long way through a very varied career. And I went to a weekend's pottery thing in Edinburgh, which I absolutely hated. It was as if I'd saved that ambition of being a potter, and it was like, for me, it's always, if I do it and it goes wrong, then I cross it off my list of possibilities. That's it. There's no going back. But if I don't do it, it's always there as it might be. I could be a world famous potter or whatever. Anyway, so I had this disastrous weekend, and I never went back to pick up my pots. I just never wanted to see them again. And then I think it was about 2019, I must have had a word with myself. And I was able to sort out work so that I could go on a Tuesday night for 10 weeks. So I went up to the Edinburgh Ceramics Workshop, did like their introductory foundation thing. Never got there early enough to actually get on a wheel, because all the people from Edinburgh managed to get there before me. So spent a lot of time hand building. And again, that made me think that I wasn't quite a real potter. And then, COVID came along. Someone that I knew who exhibited his work at the granary in Berwick, he encouraged me. He offered me some space in his kiln, so I started making bits and pieces on my kitchen table. And come summer of 2021, I decided I didn't want to go back to my grown-up job, and I was going to give it a go. And that's it. And I'm amazed I'm still here, really.
Right, well, there's a few things you said there, you know. I'm not qualified, I don't have any qualification, or didn't have qualifications till I started to do this thing. It's like, And as it's intriguing that you were an academic and now you do this. I
Mm.
think you'd possibly be the first academic creative that I've kind of met.
Yeah, well, when I say academic, I mean I don't mean I was never I never did like further study, but I
Yeah.
went to university and did archaeology.
Wow.
And again, I think that's when people like yourself ask me about how I got to where I am. I think all these little bits come together. And if I was talking to my careers advisor at school and said, "Can you draw me a career line from now to being a potter?" it wouldn't have involved any of those things.
Right.
But did archaeology, learnt about sort of ceramics in the past when I was actually a field archaeologist digging stuff up, finding bits of pots. It's like the most immediate connection you can have to, you know, prehistoric or Roman people who've been there before. Because I think archaeology can be a little bit, not ephemeral, but there seems to be a lot of interpretation about lines in the ground and sort of bits in stratigraphy, and all of a sudden it's like, actually I'm holding a plate that a Roman made that was brought over from Gaul, and I use plates, and it's just that kind of immediate, gets rid of all that kind of interpretation and academic stuff. It's just there.
But it's like you can tell the passion when you're talking. It's like the fact is, like I'm one of those people, and again I can only go with how I feel because I'm the only one in the room here. But the fact is, you say, you know, touching a plate that journey has ended, and you've got that plate now in your hand like you did. I imagine that the feeling in it's like, wow. It's like when I pick a stone up for the beach and I jokingly say to people, this stone has travelled this far to meet me because I picked it up, and then I chuck it back in the sea. It's got another journey to go. But you know what I mean? It's that journey, that plate, and you're probably the first person that I've interviewed that actually the same kind of line all the way along, as in like, you know that the things that you did past tense has led you to here. You know, it would actually surprise you how many people that's the journey, and it is a journey. And I was thinking, I was like in my wee mind when you were saying there, you know, somebody will be digging up your plates and your mugs and like,
hope so.
I don't know, let's say 1,000 years time. And that's phenomenal to think that you are actually making history. If you think about it, like every plate or every mug that you put out there, you're creating somebody else's history. Yeah, that's fascinating. It's like,
but that's not just for me, because it's then when I get people in the studio, they get that immediate pleasure of using their own mug when they get it back, and it becomes part of their family story. It becomes an heirloom or whatever. It gets knocked, it gets cracked, the handle comes off, it becomes a pencil pot. But it's always something that ties them back to that moment, that episode of creativity or whatever.
Like what you've just described there. So again, it's not my podcast interview, but so something happened to me when I worked in sales, and somebody had said to me, "That's why I got the biggest cancellation rate," because I love the passion of selling the park and then the product, and they could part with money. But when they went away, they didn't have a wee part of James, so they cancelled. Like they were gone. That's not how he put it, but it's a PG podcast. Yeah. But that's like, and that was what started the ball rolling for me, wanting to go, oh, what else can I do? And for you to say that to me, it made me smile, because then I know I'm on the right journey. Because the fact is that when that guy gifted me that knowledge, obviously it's Chris that gifted me that knowledge to say that, because then I'm like, what can I do then? So like I said, when I started to paint, it's like, so then they can have a painting, or they can have it, like the guys will always say, you're always giving stuff away, like wee paintings and stuff. That's the reason. Like you've just, the passion that you just said there, they've got the mug. Well, it's not something that would even have crossed my mind. But I was just saying history, and that there is like, for them, somebody to find it, I haven't thought about the present moment. And that's the thing about being a creative. We can get caught up with thinking of the end product and know the middle bit. So you've educated me and humbled me, and that's one of the things that I'll take eternally grateful. And that's why we have people like yourself that are special to come on the show. I'm also now interested that you've told me that you've done a bit of archaeological. Is that since you were a kid you've always wanted to do that?
Yes. Yeah, my careers advisor at school could never get his head around it. He always tried to get me on the architecture courses. But yeah, I'd always wanted to be an archaeologist. I I'd like to pretend it was for some deep and, you know, spiritually meaningful reason. I think it was because I liked Indiana Jones.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
And it was a way of, as I say, I was the youngest of three, perfectly happy and normal childhood, but it was a way of me being that little bit different because I didn't know any archaeologists. My grandparents were also over in York, which was, we used to go and see the Jorvik Viking dig back in the 80s, which gives you an idea of how old I am. And that was just phenomenal. The idea that these guys were just in this muddy hole pulling up Viking artifacts and shoes and stuff. So yeah, it'd always been part of what I'd wanted to do, and I got the chance. I went to university and did it. Took me a few years to get a job in it because it's a very attractive course. It's a very attractive thing to do, especially with the likes of Time Team and all of that sort of media, television, archaeology and history these days. But yeah, archaeology, I like to think, is a big part of me. My knees don't miss it because I think it's a young person's game. But yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough to still have my finger in it a little bit. I did some work with Historic Scotland not so long ago, creating resources for them to use with their education groups, looking at tiles and tessellations and things. So yeah, it's good.
Do you know, it's like, you just said another thing that I always talk about is about giving away. There's like always like we said, there's like creation and being able to give a wee bit of that away in order to inspire somebody, and that's important. And that's again led it on to something that I'm really, really passionate about, is about people being able to give what they're away, give a wee bit away, not just in the physical sense, but also in the sense of time, places, people.
Yeah.
Because in this world, it all comes down to that, doesn't it? It all comes down to money. But I'm glad that we get to meet people who are very like-minded in the creative world. So, I guess people will also be interested in asking, like, what past tense jobs have you had?
Anyone who's been to the studio and asked that question will probably know most of these. So, did my training as an archaeologist, as in archaeology degree, and then I became a cheesemaker in Wales.
Wow.
Organic cheesemaker, Welsh Organic Foods, which doesn't quite exist anymore. I'd kind of had enough. I got it in my head that I'd had enough of book learning and stuff, and I wanted to make stuff. So yeah, I had a couple of very happy years just on an organic farm in the middle of Wales making cheese. And then I became a bookseller when Waterstones opened a new branch in Bolton. That again was amazing. And then after that, I did my first season with the YHA. So my parents had always been big YHA people. They'd courted in the 60s, walking around the Lake District and Scotland and stuff. So it felt like a bit of a natural thing to do. So I went up to Snowdon Ranger Youth Hostel and did a season there. At the end of that, I got a job in archaeology. I went down to Canterbury. So I worked in Canterbury as an archaeologist, which, if you've been to Canterbury, you'll know it's one of those places where if you lift a stone, you'll find something underneath. It was amazing. From there, joined the Museum of London Archaeology Service. Had a few happy years digging down there. A lot more pressured than being up in Kent and, you know, doing nice bits of field work. Quite often in concrete basements, as they're ripping out the basement and we're trying to see if there's anything left underneath. Not the pretty Time Team thing that you often see. But made loads of lovely friends. And as I say, it always had that kind of that contact with the past and what people have done in the past. Sadly, then we had 9/11, which caused a big disruption to archaeology in the City of London because everyone stopped building stuff. There was this great amount of uncertainty. My dad had been a teacher at a technical college, and he'd always told me not to become a teacher. So, as every good child does, I became a teacher. So then I was a primary school teacher for 8 years, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed bits of it more than others, as I'm sure every teacher will say. And then when I left that, I went back into the YHA, worked up in Cumbria for 3 years, leading activities and education. And then I did a little bit down in Yorkshire. I did some over at Boggle Hole near Whitby. Had some amazing experiences, worked with some lovely people, lived in some amazing places. But I had that kind of career impulse of like, I need to be progressing. So I kept applying for hostels. And eventually I was taken on to manage Berwick Youth Hostel.
Oh, brilliant. I didn't know that.
So that's why I'm here. Yeah, and that's kind of the last part of the puzzle.
Nice.
Obviously, COVID came along. I stayed at work because none of the other hostel managers in the area wanted to come and sort of look after the site. We obviously didn't have any guests and stuff. But I had lots of time to go home and make mugs on my kitchen table, try some weird and wacky things. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And you stole a question. You stole a question from me. I was like, so what brought you to Berwick?
Yeah.
Hey, you know, I've got a special place in my heart for the YHA. We try and do as much as we can. Was John your predecessor? Did he?
Yes.
So, John, when we didn't have a place to go with the Sunday art class, which is sadly no longer running, John gave us a home, and in return, we put some paintings up and done them different for what the normal stuff is in Berwick, because it's getting an opportunity, and doing that merging. Aye, that is you're an interest. I usually say you're a book, but you're a film, man. That's a film waiting to happen. Like, I can imagine somebody like with Indiana Jones hat on, thinking, right, we're going to York for the day.
Needs a bit of editing, my film.
But it's like I say, like, creatives who share their stories are interesting. Let's call them creatures, because we're a creature of habit. But to see a man sitting on our couch who has found himself in a wonderful part of the world, Berwick, and now you're in Kelso with us. There's hope. There's like, for me, I always wonder, like, what's. I don't really think too much into the future. I live one day at a time is the philosophy that I've got. But if I can do half as well as what you've done in your career, because we probably started just a year after you. But I mean it when I say it's like, if nobody else tells you this, that I hear people that come to your show or come to your stall, come to your workshop. You sell them something that is free. And alongside when they have a mug and stuff, and I can tell you right now in the hand of my heart, no everybody does that, because it's a job to them. This is passion for you. The fact is, you've just told us about the mug story, is like, that's what people get, and that's how, if anybody's listening, that's how businesses in this day and age survive. You have to have something else for people. Like we've discovered yesterday with Flossie's podcast, was people go there to get their nails done. That's they'll know they're there to get their nails done. You know what I mean? It's their time. People have gave their time up to come to your classes. You conduct it very well, and people love it, and they leave with something. That's if you can bottle that, then you would make a fortune. But it's not something that can be sold, because you have to have it to give it away. That's an interesting journey you've been on, and I always think that if somebody's watching, what's the job title again? I can get a Potter.
Potter. Just got a Potter. Yeah. Like
Harry Potter. But if there's any advice for any of the people out there who would like to become a Potter, that sounds angry in the Scottish accent.
It does.
Become a Potter. You
no
will
choice.
Become a Potter.
I think it's just a case of. And it sounds a little bit glib and simplistic, but it's just a case of doing it. With pottery, of course, there's obstacles in the way of having a kiln, which is an expensive bit of kit, but you don't need a wheel, you don't need a kiln, you need a few basic tools. I'll be honest, and I get a lot of my tools off websites that do sugarcraft and cake making. You don't have to invest in anything particularly expensive. These days as well, there are lots of groups on sites like Facebook that will rent you space in a kiln. So you don't have to go all in and then find that you don't like it. You can, connect with someone in your area who'll put a little bit of your stuff in the kiln. And I guess I'm basing that on what I do with our studio, because you can come and you can buy just a lump of clay, and then I know what's going in. But yeah, I don't overcomplicate things. It's not rocket science. It's literally, you're just, one of the things I always try to tell people is we're just messing around with mud. And for me, the creativity part of it is that you are just making stuff. It doesn't matter what you make. It's not the product. Yeah, if you leave with a mug, brilliant. If you leave with a sculpture of your dog or a cottage or whatever you've made, fantastic. But it's giving yourself permission in this world where everything is, as you say, financial, and everything has to sort of earn its keep. It's just sitting down for a couple of hours and messing about with mud, and if it goes wrong, put some water back in it and have another go. And it's what people have been doing for thousands of years.
Yeah. And again, make mistakes. Well, like when you say that, it's like a lot of people break stuff, make mistakes, because how are you truly going to learn? Yeah. If you've not made the mistake, you're just going to assume you're really good at it, and then that's you when it comes to break a product that you've made for somebody. It's like, oh, jeez, that happened. But that's great. It is great advice. Like we often hear that, and I am a victim of this as well. Like going and buying expensive things, and then it's like, man, I still use paintbrushes for 4.5 years ago. You'll see them in my wee tub there. It's like they work just as well as something at 50 quid. Yeah, and it's like that. You need to, and when you're going through and breaking stuff, you need to, like, when you just said there's a rewind a wee bit. We were saying about the I call it COVID land, because I was a COVID person, as in like I found what I wanted to do after COVID. So I'm very fortunate, but a lot of people lost a lot of stuff. So to hear that after COVID you went on to continue to do what you were doing, a lot of people didn't. How was that time? Because that will probably be one of the biggest financial or lack of creative things that we'll see in our timeline, I imagine. Like there's been things happened past tense, but in our timeline it'll be up to us to tell people, that's what it was like. Yeah. So was there hardship or?
I mean, there wasn't particularly sort of financial hardship. There was a lot of uncertainty. I mean, if hostels and hospitality, I think most hostels are now possibly back to offering dorm rooms, but the idea of, a lot of things changed that haven't gone back. Personally, it did give me the time I needed to just have a go. I wasn't having to, I couldn't travel up to Edinburgh to do stuff, but I could get hold of clay and I could mess about with bits and pieces. For me, on my sort of creative journey, I think that uncertainty was what meant that I could change direction, because I wasn't stepping out of like a concrete path of, you are now a manager, this will continue, this is what your next 5 years look like. All of a sudden, like it was for lots of people, it was what happens next. And I think there's quite a few people like me who just decided that what happens next was up to them, rather than, okay, I'll just go back into that slightly corporate bubble and keep working away. And
but it's like people think I'm harping on now, but it's risk. In order for a business like yourself to grow, you have to take the risk. Yeah. And that was the perfect example during that time. Uncertainty. You have to have taken some sort of risk. All creatives, when they go in self-employed, there is a certain element of risk, and I've found the ones that really prosper, and I don't mean financially, I mean prosper, have taken the biggest risk, because families, partners, pets, all these things come into consideration. And that's what we're trying to show you guys, that the fact is that even the best business has its own risks and it has its own problems. But if you do the right thing and it's right for you, the answers will come. Yeah. If your own house is in order.
And you have to accept that with risks you are going to make mistakes. I mean, I would never write like the 7 habits of successful potters or anything like that, but I know that if someone was to ask me, I would say, don't do this, do that, prioritize that, don't worry too much about. And you'll make mistakes, and they can be expensive mistakes, and they can be painful, sort of emotionally, but they tend to be the things that people don't tell you.
Yeah, the fear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think I would be, my personality would have been the person who would have spent 6 to 12 months reading books on how to set up a business and gone through all the things that I didn't know and couldn't do, and then would have discounted it because it's like, okay, well, that's obviously not for me. But you just kind of, it's like getting a newborn baby, and I don't recommend this, even though I have seen it done. When you throw a newborn baby in a swimming pool or water, they learn to swim.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't swim particularly well now,
All
but
last, yeah.
that instinct kicks in.
Yeah.
You just have to do it.
Yeah. Like that's twice we've had the Nike advert. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, I'm not.
It's a must.
I'm not sponsored by them. But if they want any branded mugs,
we will do Nike. Please, please step up.
collab.
We'll just get a wee bit of water here if anybody's listening on Spotify. Well, no drowning. Well, like I say, man, it's an honour to have somebody like yourself on the show that's brutally honest. I like that. You don't know how much respect I have for humans, creatives, whatever, to come on and share that. It took me a long time in order for somebody to show me that, because the world isn't kind as much as I pretend it can be. I had to go through some hardships of people, places, economic insecurity, all the other stuff that you hear about. So for you to openly give that, it's an honour to have somebody like you on the show. It is, really is. I would like, it's always like firing the questions. These are genuinely no rehearsed, it's just straight in there. I think at this part, if we can tell the guys, where are you? What's the address? I think if we do.
Okay, so
we will tag in.
yes, I got in touch with an old landlady of mine because I was out near Duddo, the Duddo Stones, because when I was thinking about getting a kiln, which I did manage to do on the back of a Kickstarter campaign, which was really nice to have that sort of support and belief. She didn't have any space, so she put me onto the Ford and Eagle estate, which is where I have now been for the last 4 years.
Brilliant.
5 years? Something like that. The original studio was very challenging. It was an unheated space, didn't have any windows or insulation, had water but no heating or hot water. And I say all of these things now. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But when we had I think it must have been maybe the winter of 21, when I couldn't do any work for 2 weeks because all of the clay was frozen solid.
Wow.
And I thought part of my business model is to deliver workshops. I can't in all conscience ask people to come and get chilblains for the sake of a mug. But yeah, I mean, the estate have been brilliant with me. They gave me that location. They didn't know who I was. They let me take it over. And then I approached them again, sort of saying, the business is growing. We kind of need a bit of a better space. And yeah, 2 years ago, last week, so it was our second birthday, we opened in the old reading rooms in Ford Village, which is just up from Lady Waterford Hall. So it's always been a community building in the sense that it was built as the village reading rooms, but more recently it still had the original billiard table in it, which is in the studio side of it, but the reading room section with all of the old shelves had been turned into a bit of a gym, shall we say, a bit of a community gym. The building itself sits under the Lady Waterford Hall Charitable Trust, that's my understanding. And as with everything these days, they need that to make more of an income. I needed somewhere to go. So yeah, took it over. Like I say about the kiln, we did the Kickstarter, we got a lot of help. But when we moved into the reading rooms in Ford, we'd got a community of, I call them potty trainers because I'm a child essentially. And they're people who've come and done the class, at least a 3-hour session. And it's just like a membership scheme. They come in, they do their own thing. But it did mean that when we took over this property, apart from some of the bigger structural stuff that we had to do with plumbing and electrics, and them, loads of them mucked in to paint walls. I mean, there's too many to mention, but Margaret taught me how to paper walls, so I papered all the walls. Karen and I hammered and scraped back all the horrible stuff that was on the floor in the reading room. Karen is also a bit of a genius because she redid all of the plasterwork scumbling that had been damaged. We painted that room. I mean, the place looks so much better than it did, and people come in and love it because it is a lovely room and it's a lovely space and it's light. And I think it does a bit of the, not the heavy lifting, but when people come in, it feels like, you know, this is a space where I can be inspired and creative. Whereas our Heatherslaw studio was a bit more, you come up the steps and it's like, am I going to be murdered here?
Is the basement here with his archaeological digging? Will I be found 500 years later?
Yeah, so we've got a really, really nice spot on the Four Needle Estate, which is a bit of a hidden gem. Yeah. But, you know, I like to think that people now come to Ford, some people, not everyone, some people, they'll come to Ford to go to the Post Office Cafe, they'll come to go to Lady Wood Hall, but I think some of them might come to the pottery.
Alright. Well, listen, our team's booked in. I know me and Ian won't be there, but you know, we've been wanting to come for a while. Just with us being busy. This, again, I'll just say we're only 30 minutes in, but this is a two-parter. I already kind of secretly asked you down the stairs. I'd love to come and shoot some stuff with you, and I may as well ask on the camera, and that way you've got no chance of getting out of it.
I didn't respond.
But you know, like, and I know that didn't come without difficulties. I've followed your journey. I think for a few years now I've followed it, so I know that didn't come without its difficulties, like the world being the world that it is, that people object and stuff, but the growth that I've seen in the last time, for me as a business that's 5 years old nearly, is like, that's powerful for me, and that's why there's a powerful statement that somebody told me when I first got sober, and it was, get in the middle of the bed because you've got less chance of falling it. Or the lifeboat, get in the middle of the lifeboat and you get less chance of drowning. And I really ate that up, and that's what I see in your journey with your career, and that's why, like, you will by no doubt inspire not just the youngsters but people coming through. So to hear you say that, and people coming in, and the progression of having one place which is up the stairs, and to now have a place where you yourself feel comfortable, because you're important, man. It's like we often as creatives forget ourselves. You're important. Without Keith being Keith and happy in his own wee place, other people will feel that. You know, you can only pretend for so long, and then you're like, I need to take back, I need to take a wee bit of time for myself. And you'll hear me say it all the time, that self-care is not selfish. It's important. Yeah. But to get to where you are now, for somebody on the sidelines here, it is important that I tell you that, because I've taken, feel like, maybe 10, 12 businesses that I really like the look of. They are not all creatives, but they are at a certain journey, or they do something, or the person's just a nice person, and you were one of those people. So that's why every time we were trying to get a chat with you, it wasn't the right time, because it would come across different until it was the right time. So I'm trying to say is, like, when things happen, they happen for a reason, because you've worked and put the effort in. And again, I guess I'm telling you guys as well, is that things don't just transpire. Keith doesn't just walk in the morning and there's like 10 new mugs and other bits. It's hard graft in there.
It is, and I think it's, I don't know that much about your story here, but it's probably very similar. It is, I'm not a big fan of manifestation and stuff, but if you kind of, okay, sorry.
No, it's alright. Everybody's individual, man.
The universe kind of will provide.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be where I am without the people who'd chipped in some money on a Kickstarter, without people who've helped me put together videos and social media, without people who've moved furniture for me, you know, who haven't scrubbed the floor and painted the walls and built shelves. And I don't really know what I'm trying to say, apart from if what you do has value and other people can see that, then you've almost got an endless supply of support and help. You don't have to do it on your own. I think that might be the short summary, is don't pretend that to be successful, it has to be like the Keith show. This 100%. Is
like, again, like, it's kind of similar, manifestation in the universe. I'm all about like some of the conversations we had down the stairs is like these things couldn't happen. Like they're just like you don't question them, but like you say, the universe will provide as long as you're putting the work in, you'll get it back out. I truly believe that. That the universe will when you're putting the time and effort in, and that includes in putting the time and effort in yourself and other people. So it's nice to hear that other people are coming along and helping, because there's somebody out there who's a new creative who will be like, you know, I can't do this by myself. Guess what Keith was saying there, you know, don't be scared to ask for help, ask for advice. Like all your social media platforms are that exact reason. It's yes, there's a bit there to promote because we're a business, but 90% of it is about saying to people, you know, whatever they're above, whether it be addiction, whether it be business, whether it be selling, it's like they're all the same thing, but it comes for the person. That's who you are, and that's how it does when it goes forward. So we have some stuff. I've got lots to say, but as I say, it's not. This will be a two-parter. That's why I was trying to get in and go to see Ravn Clay. So we have some of your amazing stuff on the desk. Or being autistic and ADHD, I like to touch stuff.
Go for it.
Let me just move the mic a wee bit. This here, man, is like intriguing me. It's like I can't explain it, man. It's like it's what I was warm to when it came in. What's that wee bit there? Is that your stamp?
Yes. So that's my maker's mark. It's got my 3 initials in there, which is a K, a B, and a W. Which I was always quite proud of until someone said it looked like a pair of underpants.
Oh, let me see again.
or a droopy
This will get
bra.
my show uncensored.
Yeah. But yeah, I know it's all.
Looks like a wee devil to me.
Yeah, that'll do.
Aye, man. But what kind of work goes into this? That's like something that people will be interested in. How long does it take? Because
how long does it take? Yeah, that tends to be it. There's quite a lot of work in something like that, in the sense that we've got there's a basic form which is almost like a moon vase, but like I've said, I'm a hand-built potter, so it's not thrown. And then we make a cylinder to attach to the neck, make a foot ring, then all of the individual spikes, they're all hollow.
Right.
They're all made and attached, and then the whole thing is textured. And then dried and fired and glazed and fired.
I wouldn't think that they were hollow.
Like,
no, even when I was touching them there, I was thinking like, no, because there's some inside there.
Yeah.
As even as like small James, I would have touched this in a shop, and I can just see my mother going, "Stop touching those." I like to touch stuff, man. That's what it is for me. This is intriguing and aesthetically pleasing for me.
Yeah.
It's got a medieval feel. That's the word I was looking for.
It is, yes. It's quite. It's. I sometimes call it assault pottery because you could use it on a home invasion.
What? Is that your phone?
No. My phone doesn't make that noise.
Oh, it might be Jan's.
Oh, outrageous!
Oh, how dare you!
Yeah.
How dare that phone ring while we're filming? Aye. Let's just turn Jan's phone on silent. There we go. There you go, guys. As you can see, it's not rehearsed.
Nope.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously as a business, stock in trade are things that people will make and use. I always wanted to be a potter that would make things that were functional. So it's that thing about buying a nice mug that you get out of the cupboard every day. But with things like this, which I'm kind of stuck on now at the moment, there was a gallery that asked me to maybe have a go at making a bird feeder, a holder for fat balls. And I had this idea of making like half a conker that it would sit inside.
Right.
Never really went anywhere, but the fact that I'd made some little spikes to go on it, I kind of liked. And then skip to the end. This is where we are now.
They are cool. Like, I think for me, the colour of that one, softer. Like I'm always talking about how art makes people feel. Like this is for ADHD me. I love this. This is medieval. This is like all over. Whereas the other one, even though it's got the similar design on it, it's calm. Yeah, I would have that somewhere in where it calm. I need to be calm. So these are cool, man. Yeah. And what's the best? I'm going to get my salesman. I'm like, what's the best seller?
I mean, I realise with things like that, they have to find the right person.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the struggles I've had is I don't want to just be banging out product that I know people will buy. I'm not suggesting that that's an easy way to make a living. Our mugs are, the mugs that we make are the most popular thing to buy.
Do you got a wee mug there?
I've got a wee mug here. Sorry. Yeah, this is like one of our little tankard forms. But things like that, they're kind of where I get my
Niche.
creativity out. And I don't actually mind if people don't love them. I think it's about inspiring a response. So if they're a little bit bemused and a little bit intrigued,
how
that's
do you
fine.
handle that? Like I'm 5 years in, I'm starting to get there because I know there's growth when somebody says, "No, I don't like that." Because let's just use my book, right? So I write. So one of the books, I'm dyslexic. So when I put my first books out, it was a disaster. Right? There's loads of spelling mistakes, and I had nobody to help me. I put it out, and a woman stopped me in the street because I'd paid somebody to edit it, so there was still obviously mistakes in it. And we're still friends, by the way. She'll watch these. And she said, you know, there's loads of mistakes in that. She was Scottish. Loads of mistakes in that book and blah. And I had a good answer for this one, whereas past tense, being ADHD, I'd be quite like, "No, what do you mean?" And, you know, it did hurt a wee bit. But I was a wee bit further along in my creative journey, and I just said, you know, the Harry Potter book, you know, the one with the mistakes in it, the last one sold for 1.4 million. So, we can give you your money back. Or you can keep that. She just smiled, and I was like, you know, that's the right way. But you know, and then I went away and I managed to get it fixed. But I don't know, had she not done that, I was going to put another order in for another 50 books. Yeah, I'll just cost myself money, as well as a gift. And I'm always about paying it forward and telling people, "Oh, remember that time you were horrible at my book? This is what happened after that." Yeah. So I like to hear that the artists don't. We do care. But we care a wee bit less because we know the growth comes by just going for it.
Yeah, and I think even though they are quite unusual, they make me happy to make.
So that's nice to hear.
And if there's only one person every couple of months who comes in and is like, "That's awesome. How much is that?" Then it's like it's been worth it.
The time that goes into them. Yeah, it's like people. The thing they just think, because we're humans, you know, and I always say humans really want their bums wiped for them, and excuse that pun, but it's like, we do. I mean, myself would like, "Oh, how's that there?" I'm curious, so I always ask questions, but they just see the product. Yeah. I like it when somebody says, you know, "How did that make you feel? How are you feeling?" So for you just to free off the bat and say, you know, I like to paint it for myself. And that's nice because you're in my space where I also like to get creative. Yeah. And it truly doesn't matter. Well, hardly anybody comes in unless you're on a podcast, but I like to put stuff up that's like Ian's stuff or somebody else's, or doing stuff that we like to feel. And that's what right as creatives. Yeah. But one thing you said there was you're learning. I do genuinely like to hear that people don't stop learning and don't stop creating new stuff. Because as somebody who's like myself, I like to hear that, because then I know that when was the last time you learned something? When was the last time you painted for yourself? So I don't really stop kind of doing commissions as such, because it's people have an expectation of such. Yeah. So I just go through the stock and I paint. But that also stops me as an artist learning, because if somebody says to me, "Oh, I like that," you're like, "Right, I'll go and try and do a wee bit of manoeuvring, thinking and doing that." So there's back to the fear in it. It's back to the fear and the risk and what else. So my next inquisitive question is, how do you chill out? How do you self-care? Because as an artist for myself, I'm always trying to get to the beach at 5 in the morning, see sunrises, mainly because humans only there. I like every day, but you know, I like my own time to have my own time to myself as a human being.
I'm very aware that hopefully some people who know me will be watching this. So I'll be honest that my self-care is not brilliant. My mental health isn't brilliant. I find that a day in the studio without a workshop and a class is what I need every now and again. And it's not, like you say, it's not because I don't want to work with people and I don't, but it just frees up a little bit of headspace. We live in a lovely part of the world. I've got a really gorgeous little Patterdale dog who's always in the studio. So she makes me go out and for walks. She loves being on the beach. I love being on the beach. I haven't got the balance yet. I read a lot. It's about. I think I still need to be working on that balance. Yeah. It's one of the things that I don't struggle with it, but I find it interesting because people will come into the studio and it's like, oh, you get to do this all day. It must be lovely. And it's like, yes, it is, but it is still. It's how I'm trying to make my living. It's not as easy as it looks. Like I said quite a while ago, there's no barrier to it. You just make pots. That's absolutely fine. That's all you need to do. But when you kind of step it up a little bit, there's VAT registration, PAYE, managing staff, managing bookings, and it's like all of these things kind of start to eat away at your
creativeness.
Yeah,
totally get that.
So things like this, they're like a reset. I know they're a particularly aggressive looking reset,
right?
But yeah,
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and that is a genuine thing. Is like I'm fortunate that I get to come and paint, and that's what I've found the thing that sets me free. So the other stuff, like I say, sitting on the beach and that comes now and again. Yeah. But I'm totally with you. The creativeness, and I'm glad that that's another thing that I've started to say. The other people like you say, it's no hating on humans, but you have an effect on people. People have an effect on you. So say the next time you see an artist or a creative or somebody, ask them how they're doing, please. I don't hear enough of that. Ask them how you're doing. Ask me how I'm doing the next time I'm out in the street. Ask Keith. That's important. See, as human beings, we're not just here. I keep going on about it, to procreate and die. There's a bit in between, man. What about the living? So thanks for your honesty. That's up there with oxygen for me. See, when somebody's so honest and it's so close, that's what creative means to me. Yeah. Creative is coming on a show, talking to people, talking to a camera, talking to some ADHD autistic guy who has the same values of, sometimes it's not alright, but when I get in the studio and I get myself and I do it there and you do it for you, that's what you guys need to hear. And see if you've not found that yet. As I keep saying, when you keep watching the episodes, you'll see your episode. We have a whole load of these. Just remember what Keith said there. His time is to go inside the studio and do his thing. Not to create for somebody else. Great that you buy it, but to create for him. And that is your true, I don't know the words for it. As a creative, that is your prerogative, or there's another word, I can't remember it. But that's your world to be able to do that. So that's brutally honest. I always ask this next week question. I quite like it. I created this a wee while back. So we have my a telephone there that I've painted. But if you were to be able to phone back the old, younger you, whatever you, what would you go back and say to them?
Oh, quite a lot. I don't know whether we touched on it here or downstairs. I think I would very much be along the lines of, there is no perfect time. Why wait? One of the things that, when I talk to people about my journey or my career to get where I am, I find it amazing that we kind of push young people out of school at 16 and it's like, I want to be an accountant, and then that's it. And it's like, no, there's no set path. And you don't know where you're going to end up, but you just need to be brave enough to make that sort of step. I mean, I remember, I guess I must have been about 30 when I started looking at pottery as something that I wanted to do. But then, like I say, I was like in my late 40s before I actually did it, and I don't regret it because all of the things that I've done mean that what I do now is the way it is. But maybe if I'd been a little bit braver and hadn't had these things in my head about, you have to be the perfect potter, you have to be able to you have to be a wheel thrower, otherwise you're not a proper potter. yes, just there is no right time, and yeah, just be brave. I wish I'd been brave.
But yeah, like I always say to people, it takes that length of time because it does. Like two things there. Is one, I never went to, well, I went to school, but school wasn't really for me, and my mum was a teacher assistant, and it was just not for me. So it was like I had learned I need to learn by the ages of 11 or 12. Now education is for some people there, and it's great, but you're right, if there's that wee longer part, it's not just like you're not an adult at 18.
No.
You're still struggling to go through all this stuff, and they put so much pressure on you to be something that you may possibly don't want to be, because like maybe your parents said you want to be. It's like you're still learning. You're like, there's loads of stuff. You question your sexuality, your puberty. You've got all this stuff going on, and then all of a sudden it's like, I need a house, I need to do this, I need that, and it's like, no. So that really hit a button there for me. It's like it takes that length of time because it needs to. Like I was 37 before I decided this. But you're right, all the stuff that we did along the way now serve its purpose now. I love the universe eulogy thing you said there, because it is. There's a wee energy that runs through this world, whether we want to believe that or not. Sometimes you just tap right into it, and it gives that wee bit back. But as long as we keep giving that back, then the circle will continue.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a generation thing, but I kind of got into my main swing of a job as a primary school teacher, very much with the idea that, you know, a career is for life, you know, and it felt as if that was a good thing, you know, if you had a grandparent who'd always been on the railways, you know, and they retired from the railways and they got like a 50-year clock for long service. My grandfather had a photo taken at Terry's Chocolate Factory. Again, for like long service. He'd been there so long, and you sort of think, oh, that must be amazing. But now I'm at the age where it's like, that would just terrify me. You know, all the things that I've been able to do, and it's not through privilege. Sometimes it's circumstance. Sometimes it's just allowing your life to be a little bit chaotic, and you find that, you know, if you're lucky, you end up where you're supposed to be.
Timing of your life, but it's, if you just take a wee step off the world now and again, and start to look at how things are, you start to realise, there's another way. It's like I always say, like the graffiti analogy. Like, I may not be a big fan of some graffiti, but if kids didn't go and do that, how are they going to know there's another way? If somebody doesn't say, you can't do that, instead of like somebody saying, here's a space you could do that. You know, there's that. Obviously, it's a thin line, and I'm not asking people to go out and spray paint and stuff, but there's a fine line there. You know, it's like the world isn't what you believe it to be sometimes, because we can sometimes don't believe everything that your mind tells you. No, because that's your barrier. That you what's the other one? You stay in the comfort zone. Nothing grows. Which is true.
Yeah, and there is I'm also not telling people to go and graffiti, but there's a place for that kind of expression. Again, with my archaeological hat on, we've found some amazing things in the past where people have just been like scribbling on the walls in Pompeii, and it's just that snapshot. Just because someone's expressing themselves in a way that you personally might not agree with, or personally find uncomfortable or socially challenging, you don't really have the right to tell them that they can't express themselves that way.
You are me sitting there. I always say this is fascinating. Like, I don't know you, but I know you. It's like, so in the YHA, believe it or not, a man, he'll probably watch this as well, an older gentleman, and he said to me, what and he's just a quizzitive guy. He said, what makes you think that your art is relative in this world? And I clearly drank my wee cup of tea and sat down, and I says to him, I says, let's go back a wee bit further. Why are we now, after millions of years now, scrambling about inside caves to look at stuff that people have graffitied? I said, so that's why my art's relevant, because somebody somewhere along the line, maybe 100, 200 years from now, will go, oh, remember that guy? He did that. Or Ravn Clay. What found his that? So I'm glad you said that, because that's something that I constantly think about. And again, he drank his tea and he left. And the next day, it's like, that was powerful. So that's a great, powerful thing. So I'm quite conscious of the time, but this is going to be a two-part. We're going to go and visit. The team are definitely coming to. They've booked on, aren't they? So they're coming to see. We're away to Ireland that time, but me and Ian will definitely come. do you have a website? I'm always conscious that I never really
Yes,
ask that.
yeah. I mean, it's ravnclay.co.uk. It's RAVN. There's no E in it because I originally wanted to be on Lindisfarne, and I wanted like a Scandinavian spelling.
Cool, man.
Right. So yeah, ravnclay.co.uk. We're on all the usual social media stuff. I'm not very good at it, but occasionally I'll put something out that the world likes. Usually involves the dog.
What's the dog's name? That's what I was going to ask. What's her name?
Ellie.
Ellie. With an IE or with a Y?
IE.
IE.
She came with an IE, so she's.
That's the wee kind of furry wild-haired dogs, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my pal Phil and Adam, they've got a wee patterdale called Jeremy.
Yeah, they're certainly characters.
Great wee dogs.
So yeah.
So there's one last question that it's not like a question as such. I'm an inquisitive guy. I'm always inquisitive, but my main thing lies at inspiring the generations of whatever, somebody who I've not met or somebody who's out there. You know, I call you the people who are hiding behind the couches, you know, because we were once those people. We were once those creatives that were like, I need to, how am I going to do that? If you'd a bit of advice for them, what would the advice be? Whether it be a creative, whether it be whatever, what one powerful advice that you've had either from yourself or somebody else that's actually set the bar?
Gosh, I need to think.
I'll take a drink of water so you can take your time.
Bit of advice. I think specifically with the idea of creativity in mind, I think everyone is creative. I don't think, a bit like myself probably saying for many years I don't have any art qualifications at all, but being creative is not about being able to do a beautiful painting or make a mug. It's just about allowing yourself to create. I mean, the clue is in the word. It's not about the destination. It's just letting yourself make something that wasn't there before. And that doesn't mean it has to be better than anyone else's. It doesn't have to have a monetary value. It doesn't even have to last. You know, you can make something out of clay and then throw it in the recycling bucket. But don't let some kind of concept of I have to make, you know, a Rodin sculpture to call myself a sculptor. It's like, no, not at all. Everyone has that capacity to be creative, and I feel slightly humble in the sense that we're lucky enough to get to do it for a living in whatever form it takes. But yeah, don't ever sort of think that it's you know, it's some kind of exclusive club that you're not a member of, because it's just there. You just need to open the door.
I think that's it. You've hit the nail on the head there, and it's humbled me as well. The fact is that yes, I get it, man. Back to the protective. Like, some art people may not want to share stuff, but you know, the majority, if we class everybody like that, then you're not going to get anywhere. Just ask questions as you go along. That's important. Like, get help or go on YouTube. I know on YouTube when lockdown came, it was like that was the only thing that was there. That was like, on YouTube and try. It's been an interesting interview. You know, it's like I have a whole lot of other stuff, but it's been great. I'm inspired. That's where the motto for Jaguar 82 comes from. Guys like yourself, inspired to be inspired. I'm inspired. I know for a fact that when I finish here, I'm going to sit and paint. I'm going to sit and paint because I'm inspired, and that's what fuels me. Especially some of the things you say, and we'll get a wee chat off the camera. But for myself and the team, thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for sharing your creative story. Like I said, we tried to get you a few years back just for a chat, but it takes that length of time. And like, there's a wee thing for you people, you know, it takes that length of time because it's supposed to. But see, if you just ask the right people and the right questions, you may shave a couple of weeks, months, days, minutes, whatever off it. So, and if there's anything that you think that you can ask us or even Keith, just shoot away and we'll ping it across to him or ping it across to the email website. But I'm truly humbled by this interview, and I'm also truly honoured to have you on the show.
Well, I don't want to turn into a mushy thing, but I want to say thank you as well, because when you grabbed me at that Undermilk Wood, in a consenting professional way, it was it was a bit of an eye opener for me, because I need to embrace that kind of creative label a bit more. I'm sure we're all very good at diminishing what we do, or letting the world diminish what we do, and it's like I just mess around with clay and I make mugs and that's it. But then to have someone who I don't know come up and say, I want you on this podcast because you're a creative, and it kind of made me feel as if it was like a little benchmark that I'd reached, a little threshold that I'd crossed. So thank you for that.
Right, man, it's me. Thanks. There's somebody on the sideline here that's watched your career and grow and bump into people, and we may never speak, but the people have your back, and that's inspiring for me. Yeah. And that's why I grabbed Jake essentially. I was like, right, yeah, where were we? Oh, the Guy Masterton show. Yeah. That was emotional as well. I was right emotional watching that. Yeah. But I honestly, it's really good. But we're not finished yet. So inside my crazy lady's kind of head there is some wee mice. I'd like you to pick one out, whatever one takes.
I feel as if you might need a ceramic one of these.
Hey, maybe.
Maybe that's your project when you come.
What number?
Number 9.
Number 9. Is it number 9?
It's got a dot at the bottom.
Yes. See, James pre-planned. Because the last day I was like, oh, is it 6 out of 9? So that's yours to keep. Don't put it back in. Oh. That's yours to keep. All will be revealed after the 10th episode. Oh. All will be revealed.
Which episode is this then?
This will be episode 2. This will go out next Monday. So
okay, excellent.
All right.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Thank you ever so much.
I was going to tell a rubbish joke, but I'm not going to. Yeah. So guys, listen, as always, thank you very much for listening. If you haven't heard your story yet, please stick with Imagination Station Network, because I am pretty 99% sure that you'll hear your creative story and it will inspire you. But as always, we do not get any funding for what we do, so please visit jagar82.com. That is where we get our funding to be able to do this and to continue to do what we do. So yes, it's a plug, but it's also that's how we do it. Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much, Keith. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm sure we have not seen the last of you.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, see you after. Bye bye now.